Okay, so I'll be using Genie for this project, but you can use whichever IDE you're most comfortable with. The first thing we're going to do is import a few libraries, and as you can see, I've already created my Python file and I've named it MotionCam. Now, libraries are basically just pre-written code that will make our lives a lot easier, meaning we won't have to write as much code to make things work. The first library we're going to import is the library for the motion sensor, and to do that we write from GPIO0 import motion sensor. The next library we're going to import is the library for the Pi camera. So from Pi camera import Pi camera. Now we also need to import sleep so that we can include delays in our code. So we write from time import sleep. We'll import datetime so that we can keep track of the date and time. From datetime import datetime. And finally, we'll import system so that we can exit our program safely later on. Import sys. Now, make sure to save your code as you follow along in case something goes wrong. You don't want to lose everything you've done so far. Before we write any code for sense in motion or recording video, we need to be able to tell the time in our code so that our camera and our motion sensor can tell when motion was sensed. So to do that, we're going to create a function. And what functions are, they're just chunks of code that you can call from anywhere in your code. It saves you having to write code over and over again. You write it once and you call it multiple times. Now, this function is going to be called get underscore time, like that, bracket bracket, and colon. Now just press enter to go directly underneath it. And the next thing we need to do is we need to create a variable that will hold the time that currently is now. So whenever this function is called from a part of our code, it will get the exact time it was called. So we write now is equal to datetime dot now, and we put 2 brackets there at the end. Now we need to create a string, or in other words, a series of letters and numbers that will represent the date and the time. So we're going to write current time. This is just what we're going to call our string, and we're going to make that equal to the time that is now. So we write now, but we need to convert it in a way that we can read it. So we need to convert it to date, month, year, in hour, minute, second. And to do that, we write strf time, and in here we can write our format. So we write 2 quotation marks like that, and we go inside them, and we write percentage lowercase d forward slash percentage lowercase m forward slash percentage uppercase y. So there we have day, month, year, and then we press space and we can write our hour, minute, second. Percentage uppercase h colon percentage uppercase m colon percentage uppercase s, and there we have day, month, year, hour, minute, second. Finally, we need to get the string current time, which we just created, and we need to return it anytime our function up here is called. And to do that, we write return current time. So anytime that this chunk of code, this function, gets called anywhere else in our code, we will get back, this code will return us our current time. And we save our code there. Now, because we want our code to run over and over again, we're going to use something called a while loop. And a while loop basically runs a chunk of code forever and ever until somebody stops it, or the function, or not the function, sorry, the condition it's been given becomes false at some point. So we're going to create our function first, and we're going to call it loop. And this is just similar to our other function up here, except it's going to do different things. So to make our program loop over and over again, we use something called a while loop. And as you can see, because we want it to run over and over again, we won't give it a condition, so it will always be true. Now, one problem that we might have, and we should fix now, is whenever we run our program, we don't want it to sense our motion while we're setting it up. We only want it to sense motion once we're out of the picture, as we don't want our motion triggering the camera to take pictures of nothing. So to do that, we need to create a countdown timer. And this countdown timer will allow us 30 seconds or whatever time you choose for you to get ready before your program starts sensing motion. And the first thing we need to do is create an if statement. And an if statement basically runs lines of code underneath it if the statement inside these brackets is true or false, depends on what you're checking. So we're going to create a variable, and we're going to call it program underscore started, and we're going to equal it to true. So in here, when our program starts, it's going to assign program started to true, and in this if statement we can check if program underscore started equals true, we will do something. And what we're going to do is we're going to run our countdown timer, and to create one we use something called a for loop. So we write for I in range and bracket like that, and in here I'm going to put in 30 because I want my countdown to last 30 seconds. And a for loop works in the following way. When it runs, when we get to this line, for I in range, it will run whatever is underneath here as many times as you've put in here. So in this case, whatever is underneath it is going to run 30 times. So I will start at 0, run whatever is underneath it, and then it goes back to here again. I will become 1, run whatever is underneath it, and it goes back, and I becomes 2, and so on and so forth. So what do we want it to do? Well, we want to know what's going on in our code, so we're going to write print, and what print does is it just prints a message to the console so we know what's happening. And in this case, we want our message to be program starting in colon like that, and we're going to write %s, and the %s here just means a blank space that we can fill with whatever we want. And to fill it, we just come outside the quotation marks and we write % again, and in this case we're going to write bracket, and in here we're going to write 30 minus I. But why are we writing 30 minus I? Well, when our loop starts, I starts at 0. So in here, 30 minus I is 30. So the first time the loop runs, program starting in 30 minus I, which is 30. Goes back again to the top, I becomes 1. Program starting in 30 minus 1, program starting in 29. Goes back again, I becomes 2. And this will happen, like I said before, 30 times or whatever time you've put in here. Now, another problem we have is for loops don't wait a second. They will run very, very quickly. So to make it wait 1 second in between every loop, we need to put a delay in. And to do that, we write sleep, and we want 1 second, just like that. So every time it comes back to the bottom, it will wait 1 second before going back to the top and running again. Now, finally, to make sure that our program only runs once, to make sure this countdown only runs once, we can then change program started equals false, so that when it finishes the loop and it gets to this line of code, the program would then have already started And when it comes back, if it checks if it's true, it won't be true because we changed it to false, so it won't run again. Now we'll save that, and we can test this, but we first have to create a way for our program to start. And every Python program needs a start. And to do that, we write if underscore underscore name underscore underscore equals and quotation marks underscore underscore main underscore underscore quotation marks and colon. Now we'll write another message for ourselves so we know our program has started. Just like that. And in here we're going to write try, and what that does is it runs any line of code. So the first thing we want to run is our loop here so that we can start our countdown. So we just write loop, just like that, which is the function we created up here. Now we also need to have a way to exit the program, and to do that we write except, and we're going to exit the program using something called a keyboard interrupt. And a keyboard interrupt is basically when you press Control and C on your keyboard, it does something. And in this case, we want the program to end, and we do that by writing sys.exit and 1, just like that. And we can save the program. Now, if we run our program and test, we should be able to see our countdown timer in action. And there it is. And this will run all the way down to 0. We can also test our keyboard interrupt by pressing Ctrl C, and it should exit the program like so.